This is a Sports Catastrophe production.
Hey there, ho there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And since there's nothing interesting on June 28th for an on this day thing, I decided to skip that and just give you the birthday boy. Just give you one Sports Catastrophe video today on June the 28th. This is a powerful quarterback. He played his entire year with one team. He was part of the greatest quarterback draft class of all time, that being 1983. He was legendary, and he was scandalous for his role in the draft stuff before he even played it down in the NFL. But he did. He ended his final 2 seasons. He won the Super Bowl, thankfully denying him the honor of being the greatest quarterback never to win a Super Bowl. He is John Elway. Elway is 61 years old today, and he's president of football operations for the Broncos. Why else? So he spent his entire 16-year pro career with the Broncos and played college football at Stanford. He had the most victories by starting quarterback and was the second most prolific passer in NFL history at the time of his retirement. He could even run the ball. He actually scored a rushing touchdown in 4 different Super Bowls. The only other person was Furman Thomas. I'm like, oh my God, I did not know that. Well, it's easy to do, do that when you've been to 5 Super Bowls yourself. And basically, he's only one of there's only 2 quarterbacks that retired after a Super Bowl victory, Peyton being one. Peyton Manning when he did it with the Broncos in 2016, and John Elway. He set a lot of records. He was the first pick in the 1983 NFL draft, famous as the quarterback class of 83, where he was taken by Baltimore before being dealt to Denver. In January 1987, Elway did what was called the drive, one of the greatest moments of all time, in the AFC Championship game against the Cleveland Browns, and then they lost the Super Bowl to the New York Giants. The Broncos were in a period of decline after a few more Super Bowl losses. However, they won the Super Bowl in 98 and 99, beating Green Bay and Atlanta, respectively. John Elway would lead Denver to 6 AFC title games and 5 Super Bowl appearances, winning twice as a Bronco. Elway was inducted into the College Football and Pro Football Hall of Fame quite easily. All that. So, anyway, Elway has a twin sister, Yana. They were born June 1960 in Port Angeles, Washington. Jack Elway was a prominent college coach, and basically, he was good and all that. John Elway would be known for having a pretty good quarterback, being one of the highest recruited players in the country, winning 60 scholarship offers. Of course, one of his offers was from his dad, who was the coach of San Jose State. Elway was even drafted in the 18th round of the baseball draft, which was weird. Anyway, in 79, he decided to forego his dad's wishes and go to Stanford, where he played football and baseball. Stanford was in a tight game. I think his dad, I don't think his dad coached Stanford, but I think he knew. But basically, Elway was trying to help Stanford out. In his senior season, Stanford was 5-5 and had to beat Cal in the big game to get into a bowl game, the Hall of Fame Classic, if you will. 2 minutes left, Stanford was down by 2 and had 4th and 17 on their 13. Elway made a massive pass and drove the ball downfield for Mark Harmon's winning field goal. The problem was Stanford didn't run down the clock, and there was 4 seconds left. Cal basically used so many laterals to get the win, to take down Stanford and all that. Elway was really bitter and all that. And a lot of people said that it cost Elway the Heisman Trophy. I doubt it. So anyway, Elway never got to a bowl game with Stanford. And then remember, in those days, in the 1980s, getting to a bowl game was a lot harder than it is nowadays. Because there's 32 bowl games nowadays. And in those days, it was 15. But anyway, in his 4 seasons, He did pretty well for Stanford. 9,000 plus yards, 77 touchdowns, 39 interceptions. Unfortunately, Stanford was 20-23 during his tenure. So basically, they couldn't win the game. Their defense sucked. He was actually second in Heisman Trophy balloting as a senior. Oh, okay. He was actually named number 15 on the top 25 college players of all time list. But that was like, what? 2007. Yeah, 2007. So, that might have changed. Meanwhile, the New York Yankees actually wanted him as a baseball player, so they decided to select him in the second round of the '81 baseball draft, 52nd overall, ahead of Tony Gwynn. Wow, and he got a lot of money playing for the Yankees' short season affiliate in the New York Penn League. Oh, it looked pretty good and all that. Scouts said that when he concentrated on baseball. If he was concentrating on baseball, the sky was the limit. And all that. George Steinbrenner, who got Elway services, thought that he would be the starting right fielder by 1985. Of course, that didn't happen, and by 85, the Yankees were decent enough anyway. So, here's the thing. The Baltimore Colts were 0-8 in the shortened 1982 season that got hit mid-season due to the player strike. Baltimore needed help. They needed a quarterback. Their star quarterback, Art Schlichter, basically spent more time worrying about betting on games than helping the Colts out. So the Colts needed something. And Baltimore had the number one pick. Elway didn't want to play for the Colts because they were one of the worst teams in the league. And all of that. Elway preferred football, but he could have been a baseball star, so it would be like negotiations with the Colts. What people forget is that John Elway not playing for the Colts wasn't just because, Baltimore sucked and basically had no football direction. It was because their head coach was Frank Kush. And Elway knows him well, as John Elway knows that Frank Kush was a head coach in the Pac-10 for Arizona State for many years before he got sacked because of his abuse of players. Not sexual abuse, mind you. But anyway, yeah. So because of Kush's taskmaster-like things, Elway's father, who coached in the Pac-10, said that, he wouldn't fit well. Elway told the Colts he would not play for the team, and he wanted to play on the West Coast. And Elway actually threatened to join the Yankees full-time if the Colts did not train him. And all that. It was shocking and all that. Elway's refusal to join the Colts were controversial. Terry Bradshaw denounced him, saying, "You should play baseball. He's not the kind of championship guy you win championships with." There were rumors circulating that the Colts, if they picked John Elway, would have traded him to San Francisco for Joe Montana. There was negotiations of a trade with the Chargers, who were negotiating with Dan Fouts, and if Fouts couldn't come to the contract, they would have gotten Elway. New England was interested, but the Colts didn't want to trade him to a team in the same division. Of course. The Raiders almost traded for Elway the day before the draft, but they fumbled away a trade with the Bears that would have seen him get the Bears pick and basically go after him. The Colts decided to draft Elway and trade him later. He had to. Of course, the general manager knew he had to pick Elway and all that. So anyway, the Colts didn't know what to do, so they decide to make negotiations. And thankfully, though, Colts owner Robert Irsay found a trade partner, the Denver Broncos. Irsay was interested in picking up offensive lineman Chris Hinton, who was actually the 4th overall pick in that draft. So they decided to trade Elway. Elway would be traded to Denver for the rights to Chris Hinton, backup quarterback Mark Herman and a first round pick in the '84 draft, which was a offensive lineman who I don't really think was that good. Weirdly enough, the Colts would only play 1 year in Baltimore with Mark Herman and Chris Hinton before moving to Indianapolis and all that. Elway was anticipated and all that. The Elway watch. Craig Borden retired and all that. And they expected John Elway to be the starting quarterback for the Broncos after all. I mean, Herman was traded. However, Elway was relieved by veteran Steve DeBerg, who did well and all that. Elway's second game was in Baltimore. Ironic enough, because guess what? That's the team that, he's burned. Broncos ended up being the Colts, thanks to Steve DeBerg. Elway was decent. And then in the 86-87 season, Elway would help the Broncos get to Super Bowl 21 on the wings of the drive. With about 5 minutes left, Cleveland kicked off, and Denver made a stupid mistake that the receiver of the kick returner could have let the ball go in the end zone for a touchback, and the ball would have been 20, but he panicked and picked up the ball at the 2-yard line. So Elway had to lead his team 98 yards to tie the score because they were down by 7. Broncos would go on to win in overtime. It was shocking and all that. Elway did well and all that for the first half against the New York Giants, but then the Giants basically crushed them, winning the game 39-20. Elway would help the Broncos win in the AFC title game again against the Browns, but this time in Denver, not in Cleveland. And again, a Cleveland mistake cost them dearly as Ernest Biner made a massive fumble, and Denver recovered it. Denver was up 10-0 against the Redskins in the Super Bowl, but Washington scored 5 touchdowns in the second quarter. Game over. And the final score was 42-10. All that. He actually had, at the time, the record for fastest touchdown in Super Bowl history by his 56-yard touchdown pass to Ricky Metal. But the Redskins' offense was just huge. Timmy Smith basically was an icon, but only because of the Redskins' offensive line, and included R.C. Feldman and Joe Jacoby, among others. In fact, that 10-0 deficit, that 10-point comeback from the Redskins was the best comeback in Super Bowl history until Pass came back from 28-3. So anyway, Elway would help Denver after an off year basically get back to the Super Bowl by taking care of the Browns in the AFC Championship game, but nothing too controversial or noteworthy. So they would play the 49ers in Super Bowl 24. Sadly, though, the Broncos would suffer their 4th Super Bowl loss as a franchise, and 3rd for Elway. San Francisco crushed them 55-10. And Elway scored the only touchdown for his team on a touchdown run. People doubted he would win a Super Bowl. And who could blame them? Because the AFC was just basically being dominated by the NFC every year since 1984. Spring. Elway would lead his team back to the Super Bowl for the 98 season. 97-98 season. However, they blew a golden chance in the 96-97 season. Denver was number 1, 13-3. Basically, they were a powerhouse. They had to take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. But stupidly, those stupid reporters called the Jaguars Jagwads, and Jacksonville shocked Denver by winning 30-27. That led the way for Drew Bledsoe to get to the Super Bowl, but Green Bay beat them. So, anyway, Elway helped Denver get to the Super Bowl against Green Bay. Brett Favre was hoping for back-to-back Super Bowls, but Denver ended up winning 31-24 thanks to Terrell Davis's performance, even though he had massive migraines and all that. Elway would not do that well. He didn't throw a touchdown pass. But you know what? He still has that famous helicopter spin run when he ran and then he went up in the air like a helicopter spin and got a few more yards. Broncos would win Super Bowl 33 by a score of 34-19 as he basically threw for 336 yards and ran one in for a touchdown. He decided to retire in May 1999 as one of the best ever at age 38. One of the best winning percentages in history and the second most Pro Bowl selections at that time, 9. He played in 22 postseason games for the Broncos and won 14 of them. He would throw 27. He almost has thrown for 5,000 yards in postseason play and 27 touchdowns. Oh, that it's amazing. Elway's number 7 was retired by the Broncos during halftime of a game against the Miami Dolphins and all that. Elway actually made the list of the greatest football players of all time, being number 16. Being the only player on that top 100 list to spend the majority of his career at the Broncos. And the Sporting News published another special in 2005 calling him the third greatest quarterback of all time behind June28 and Joe Montana. And Elway was named the greatest athlete to wear number 7, baseball, basketball, football, or hockey. Although hockey fans would be mad because of Howie Morenz and Ted Lindsay. But anyway, he did pretty well for himself. He holds many Broncos franchise records. That's not hard to see. He's actually fourth. He's still fourth all time in most wins by starting quarterback behind Favre, Manning, and Brady. Peyton, that is. He's actually 7th all time in rushing yards by quarterback behind Randall Cunningham, Michael Vick, Cam Newton, Steve Young, Frank Tarkenton, and Steve McNair. Elway has thrown for the 4th most yards in Super Bowls with 1,128 behind only Tom Brady, Kurt Warner, and Joey Montana. So yeah. He was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame in his first year of eligibility. Oh, that. John Elway could have played baseball, but he wasn't. So yeah, Elway was an icon and all that. He in fact led the Broncos to 35 comeback wins after trailing in the fourth quarter and or overtime, tied for third with Johnny Unitas. I'm surprised that's at number 1, because he was known for coming back in the fourth quarter and all that. But anyway, yeah, he did pretty well for himself. He had a few lean seasons and all that. One 4,000-yard season, only one. That was 93. But yeah, 300 touchdown passes exactly and 226 interceptions. Postseason, he was 14-7 as a quarterback, 2 out of 3. That's not bad. 27 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. The Super Bowl, he was not that good. He threw for 8 Super Bowl interceptions, 3 in 1 year against Washington, which was funny because San Fran blew out Denver in Super Bowl 24, but he only threw 2 interceptions. Elway was actually co-owner of the Colorado Project Arena football team until the league got expelled. John Elway had owned auto dealerships called John Elway Autos, and that actually was something. I can't remember what the thing is of that, but he had an advertisement on the Colorado Avalanche boards. All that. Auto Nation. He owns a few franchises. Anyway. He's the top executive for Denver since 2011. So yeah, it's amazing and all that. Following the 2020 season, he stepped down as GM, but is now going to be still be the president of football operations only. Elway married Janet Buchan, who attended Stanford. They separated in 2002 and divorced in 2003. They have 4 kids: Jessica, Jordan, Jack, and Juliana. Jessica was the one who gave the induction speech of her father at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Chuck Elway III signed to play quarterback for Arizona State, but left the team and all that. Elway's twin sister actually died of lung cancer in 2002, and John's father, Jack, died of a heart attack the year before. Elway met a former Oakland cheerleader and married in 2009. That's weird how you would be with a Raiders cheerleader. I mean, honestly, they're your division rivals. But still, John Elway is an icon and he will always be immortalized, even in South Park. Let's go. Let's go. Broncos, Broncos. Let's go, Broncos, Broncos. Let's go. I think John Elway would definitely be the number one starting quarterback for Denver nowadays. Because Denver doesn't really have a good starting quarterback. And that's true. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I don't